Welcome to the Week 8 edition of the Shark Tank Podcast. This is Warren Sharp of SharpFootballAnalysis.com and DonBest.com. And we're pleased to welcome back Jay Kornegay of the LVH into the fold here on this Week 8 edition. Jay, how are you doing this afternoon?
Good, Warren.
Excellent. Well, it's Week 8, which means that most of these teams, this is going to be their 8th game of the season. Half of the season will be down, half of it still to go. And even the loftiest expectations for those of us who bet the Chiefs over probably didn't have them sitting at 7-0 heading into this 8th game. What's your take on that team? Because one of the interesting facts about them is that they haven't thrown a touchdown pass in 3 straight games, which is something I think only 5 teams haven't done in wins, is throw a touchdown pass 3 consecutive games since like 1998 or something of that nature.
Well, the thing about the Chiefs is their defense seems to be getting better and their offense seems to be getting worse. And I can see their defense is getting better mainly because it was all about their linebackers and the defensive backs. They have tremendous talent back there. Their line was the question mark, and they seem to be coming on. And so, therefore, you can see it on that side of the ball. The offense is kind of puzzling. I thought they'd get a little better, but they haven't. And they're relying too much on Charles. They can't seem to get anything going on the passing side of it. And it looks like they're pretty conservative as well. So it's a little puzzling to see that they're struggling that much as the season progresses.
Right. No, absolutely. So on that game this week, what did you guys open at against Cleveland?
Against Cleveland, let me just double check here. Hold on just a sec.
Okay.
We had 7 and 39.5 was our opening number.
Okay. So you have moved a little bit in favor of the Chiefs.
A little bit, yeah, as expected. You know, the ticket count is certainly favoring Kansas City. I think it's more. I don't think it was really the money. I think it's just an anticipation that we're going to see more Chief money. I'm not going to be surprised if this thing closes like 8.5. And you talk about the Browns, and you know there's a change there, and you know they seem to be wishy-washy about what's going on over there. Whedon just looks horrible. Actually, it's so weird because we've had a couple of scenarios of backup quarterbacks that have taken over, and our eyes could actually be an upgrade. And I mean, we all know that Freeman looked horrible for the Vikings on Monday. I mean, one of the worst performances I've ever seen from an NFL quarterback. And when they say Ponder is an upgrade.
Right.
You know, you are hurting big time at your quarterback position if Ponder is an upgrade, and that's how we see it. But Campbell is a career backup guy and maybe even borderline third quarterback. But in this case, because Whedon looks so bad and has been playing so poor, that it actually could be an upgrade for the Browns here.
Right, absolutely. And speaking of another quarterback who has been struggling, I'll go right to Game 227-228, Atlanta versus Arizona. Carson Palmer really looked horrible last Thursday night against Seattle. And I truly blame some of that on the play calling itself. They put him into a lot of 3rd and 10 plus yards to gain. And when you unleash the Seahawks pass rush on that, I mean, Carson Palmer is not the type of quarterback who's going to thrive in those conditions. He's the type of quarterback who can maybe manage something 3rd and medium, but he's certainly not going to be the guy to win that game. So this game's interesting to me against Atlanta because Atlanta does struggle to rush the passer. And it's an interesting game also because it appears as though, and you can tell me from where you guys sit, that the public is betting Atlanta as well. And so I'm wondering if there is sharp money on the Cardinals, or are the sharps joining the public in betting Atlanta here?
We opened 2.5, 20 on the Cardinals, a total of 45, and it's kind of been wavering around some kind of split line one way or another, some kind of version of 2.5. You've seen it go down to minus 2.5, minus $1.05, up to minus 2.5, minus $1.20. So it's been a quiet game for us. I would think that I think the public and the sharps are going to be on the same side here, but it's not going to be a lopsided game. And I think they're going to be on the Atlanta side. Arizona is one of those teams where, man, their offense looks like, it's like 15 years old. It's just, if you look at most of the top teams, whether you look at the college ranks or the pro ranks, most of them have really good offenses. It's outside Alabama, maybe you're saying, okay, that most of the best teams in the country have high scoring offenses. And you look at some of the pros and the top teams in the pros, and you look at, they have really good offenses. And I think we all know that's kind of been the movement in the NFL recently, and it's been in the college ranks for a few years. But you need to be versatile on your offensive side, and you have to have good quarterback play and keep these teams off balance. And whether it's a hurry-up offense or it's a mixture of, you have to change it up. If you're going back there and huddling and playing, calling 44 dive, I don't know how many times during the course of the game, and just being very generic and so predictable, very readable, and these defenses really can tee off on you. And I think that's what we're seeing in Arizona right now. It just feels like they're a decade behind everybody else right now. But their conservative calling, their poor play calling is just really setting up Palmer to be, hit quite often.
Right. No, I absolutely 100% agree on that one. Let's look at one of the games that I'm assuming perhaps because the Cowboys are involved is drawing a fair amount of a higher ticket count in the 1 o'clock slate of games, but the Dallas-Detroit game pits two winning teams against one another. And aside from, the surprising Jets against the Bengals, which both have a winning record, that's the only games of the card this week, the rest of the week here, that actually pit two teams with winning records against one another. And that line seems to be sitting pretty squarely at 3. Where are the sharps lining up on that one if they are taking a stand on one side or the other there?
Well, I think they were taking the hooks, and I think let me just double check here. But when you look at Dallas and Detroit, and it's been flip flopping between 3 and 3.5. I think the sharps are certainly taking 3.5 when they pop up, which they've been doing all week. But it's going to be interesting to see what the public is. Public has a hard time betting it. Well, at times, yeah, they have a hard time betting against Dallas, but it's certainly the Cowboys can get a lot of momentum at the betting windows when they're halfway decent. And right now they're halfway decent. So Detroit, it takes a little longer for them to win the public over. So I expect the ticket count to be in favor of Dallas. The value, according to some of the sharps, were the 3.5, and they've already scooped those up. So I don't think we're going to see 3.5 there anymore. I think 3 is a pretty solid number, or you're going to have a split line off of 3. Tomorrow morning and before kickoff. I don't think he'll go to 2.5. I certainly don't think it's going to go back to 3.5. So I think 3 is a pretty solid number, even though you might see some variations of it.
Right, and I think that was a great adjective to describe the Cowboys as halfway decent. Their offense is the better half, and the defense is the worse half, even though they held the Eagles in check a little bit. and have had a few games, where they held the Redskins a little bit too. I don't know if that was the case of their defense playing lights out or the other team's offense is just having some issues. But so that'll be an interesting game. Which of the games on the card this week are you generating a little bit more one-way sharper action, as opposed to them being a little bit more evenly split? Are there a couple of games that you could point out on the sides where we are seeing a little bit heavier amount of sharp action lining up?
Early, I thought, we talked about the Cowboys scooping up 3.5, but it's not like the number ran at all. You look at, usually they're on these dogs, and I know that they took the Jets early. We opened that thing 7 and down to 5.5, so they were scooping up the 6.5 and 6 earlier in the week. That was a game that seemed to have a lot of early sharp action. We know it's not the public betting the Redskins, so we know that the some of the sharps out there and are taking some plays on the Redskins. As we were at 14 when we opened, and 13.5, 13. 12.5 certainly saw some sharp action. 11.5 now down to 11 on this game here. So we obviously anticipate some Bronco money tomorrow, but that's a game that certainly has the attention of the sharps, meaning the Redskins.
That's an interesting game because I know you're a Bronco supporter, I think, and you have at least some history there with the Broncos, but that's an interesting game because a lot of people would comment, well, the best way to beat the Broncos is to keep Peyton Manning off the field. And the reality is, I don't really think that's the best way to beat Peyton Manning. The best way to beat Peyton Manning is not to run plays that you don't really want to run simply to keep him off the field. The best way to win is to efficiently produce points on the scoreboard. When you're doing that, you are keeping him off the field. And you're having him play chase with you and catch up, and that's of the two closest games that he's played this year, the Cowboys and then the game against the Colts. And those teams went out. I mean, the Colts started slow; they got behind 7-3. They were trying to run the ball a little bit, establish the run, the fallacy of establishing the run, so to speak. But then they opened it up and started passing the ball and put up points. And obviously, that's what Dallas did. That's kind of Dallas's MO, though, a little bit more so than the Colts, but. With the Redskins, my general sense in the game is they're going to run the read option, they're going to run the ball, they're going to throw the ball, they're going to just keep everything very off balance and try to produce. They're not specifically going to try to grind out 9-10-minute drives just to keep Peyton Manning off the field. If they can score on big plays, they're going to score on big plays. But what's your take on the best way to beat the Broncos? Because clearly their defense does have some issues that can be taken advantage of. And, the Skins, if they had a little bit better defense, they might be able to, really to cause some concern out in Denver. Obviously, you got to question Peyton Manning's arm and his ankle, and he's a little bit beat up in his offensive line too. So what's your take on this game here?
Well, I think the best way to beat Manning and the Broncos is to get the pressure on him, and a lot of teams just can't do that. But that's the best way to beat him, and you have to have the personnel to do something like that, because if you blitz, he'll kill you as well. So it's push up the middle. He doesn't like a lot of people in his face. It's not necessarily on the sides, but if you can get push up the middle and get into his passing lanes, that creates a problem for him. And the Broncos really don't go deep that often, so it's you can try to do tight coverage, and that dink and donk thing is something that he's been doing for years. So it's one of those things where you could probably slow him down a little bit if you have tighter coverage and not worry about the deep ball. And I would probably put pressure up on him up the middle and have very tight coverage, in that anywhere from 5 to 15 yard range. and I attack the Broncos' rush defense. I think that you can, if you have a physical running game, you take advantage of it. Just pound it right at them, and all this obviously is easier said than done, and people have been trying to do this against Manning for years, but I think that's the best choice that you have. But is it a cure-all? No, it's just something I think that actually slows them down a bit.
Right. Right. No, that should definitely be probably one of the most interesting games of the second half, although the Pittsburgh-Oakland game should also draw some good interest. And we finally have a good slate of games where there's a little bit more balance between the early games and the late games. You got 6 early games and 4 late games, as opposed to a lot of imbalance there. Which of the games this week? I noticed the total here on the Giants and Eagles was clearly bet down a fair amount. Was there any games, sides or totals, where you guys hung a number and just were surprised a little bit with the action that's come in from both the public, but more so the sharps? You could probably pinpoint where the public is going to bet most of the weeks, but was there a game where you didn't really anticipate sharp money backing or supporting a certain side or total, and they ended up doing that?
I think we just talked about it. I didn't realize they were going to be on the Redskins so much. That's a big number, and it came down almost 3 points now, and that's just a little surprising to me. I think that people are, I don't know, whatever angle you want to do, and as far as angles like Shanahan going back there, Manning's kind of beat up, and Manning, the thing is about Manning is that they just took a day off. All those guys just took a day off. Everybody's got some bumps and bruises, and they just decided to take, a day off, and it made national headlines. With Decker out and Welker sitting and Manning out. Everybody has some bumps and bruises, and basically that's all there is to it. It'd be interesting to see what happens with the Broncos later on, though, because they are benching Hillman. They've had problems with a lot of fumbles, and they had 4 turnovers in the Colts game. Still came within a touchdown and beating them. And Hillman's just fumbled too much, so they're going to make him inactive, and they're going to bring this guy C.J. Anderson. They're going to activate him off the practice squad. And this guy, I got to tell you, it's going to surprise a lot of people, because I was really impressed by his play in preseason until he got hurt, and they didn't want to let him go, and I totally understand that. So now he's healthy and back, and he's a very physical, smart running back, and for those guys out in the fantasy leagues there, I actually called my buddy last night who can make moves anytime. We can only make them certain times in our leagues, but I told him, I go, hey, if you ought to just take a flyer, C.J. Anderson might be it, because he might be here to stay, even though I don't think he'll overtake Marino, but I could see them splitting carries, by the season's end.
So you anticipate he would overtake Bell?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm not really sure. What's your take on what's been going on with Bell? Because he certainly was talked about. I know Peyton Manning talked about him a lot during the training camp, and so a lot of people were high on him coming in and taking the lead role there. And obviously, he didn't get the job done early, and Moreno kind of stepped up and took it over. But where's Bell? Seems to rank on this depth chart. He seems to be, the last one standing there.
Yeah, he just can't. He's just overwhelmed. He just can't learn the offense, and not to mention that he fumbled and a couple of times, and that did him in, and he just can't block. He just can't read he's not. He has the physical tools to do it, but he's just slow in learning the offense and the blocking scheme that the Broncos run. So, and that's a problem when you want to keep a guy like Manning, off the ground. You can't have someone back there missing assignments and having Manning take these shots. So, the reason why people are high on him is because it was a high draft pick, which I'm really never into Big Ten running backs. But that's exactly what I said when they drafted him, and I'm just like, I don't know. I certainly prefer faster, running backs, more physical, and I don't know. It seems like not all of them, but majority of them are very slow, and
Mhm.
I just didn't like the pick, so it doesn't really surprise me that he's at the bottom of the totem pole, in week 8 here.
Right. Right. Now, of the current lines on the board, are there any? Obviously, we tend to see some movement Saturday night into Sunday morning that maybe we didn't see a lot of during the week, just a little bit. But what games do you anticipate seeing a little bit more movement from the sharp money that's going to come in later tonight and tomorrow morning? Are there any games that you think are definitely going to lines that may be here right now but won't be here when we get to kickoff?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Warren. That's so hard to predict. You're trying to get inside some of these heads out there, and that's tough to do.
Right.
It's like, I mean, you certainly can guess, but that's exactly what you'd be doing. I have no idea what they're going to do. Like you said, the public's certainly easy to read, and you can almost say, here's the public side and here's the sharp side. But normally, what we see is some movement late night or early in the morning. These lines start moving, and I can tell you, the majority of them is like, okay, they're on this side. They're on Team A and they're on Team B and Team C. Okay, we can see that, but trying to predict that, and I've done a couple of columns and people have asked me the very similar questions to this, and I just want to remind everybody, man, I wish I knew. I could probably make a pretty good living, if I could, know where these things were moving before they did. And like I said, you could certainly take some educated guesses, but I got to tell you, I'm wrong a lot. As my friend told me, he goes, "Well, you get paid for being close." Well, that's right, and that's what I try to be, but certainly can make some mistakes and some totally wrong guesses. And have we made bad numbers before? Absolutely. Absolutely. We do them almost every week. It's like, wow, we made that too high, and or we made it too low. And it certainly is a game that we just try to put the best possible number that we can up there that we think is actually not so much for the public but for the sharps. And then by the time we get to Sunday, we know that public money is going to come in, and so we can kind of move it a little faster. And then where we're comfortable, knowing that okay, well, we'll take a little bit of bigger play or bigger money on the other side to balance it out a little bit. But still, it's a very difficult game to predict because you're trying to get inside some of the numbers. If I knew that where they were going to go from now until kickoff, believe me, I'd be favoring those sides a little bit. But again, those are just guesses, and so I'm not sure to answer your question. Yeah,
no,
I could take some guesses. Yeah, I could take some guesses, but I'd probably be 50% on those.
Right.
Those numbers, yeah.
Well, one thing's for sure. If you have Dallas, Seattle, New Orleans, or Minnesota on your card, you should be a little bit concerned because those are the picks this week in the Super Contest that were picked by the most contestants, and those have really been doing abysmal year to date. So those four sides in particular look like they are drawing a lot of action from the contestants, and obviously to be expected as the contest grows, you are going to have some additional square money or public money involved, public entries. So those are definitely four to pay attention to. If you like those teams, you might want to recalculate.
Yeah, it's like, well, people have been talking about that. Yeah, they've been talking about that, and it's like, yeah, it is just an awful record. But then, it certainly is a tool and also an indicator that majority of the people in the Super Contest are struggling. So, those that are on the sidelines, critiquing everything, like there's so many of them that are, that I always say it's kind of easy to be a critic. You basically just something and then give your opinion on why, or you describe how they were wrong. I go, wow, I don't put a lot of stock in that because I think that's really easy to do. If I could just sit there, and be the Monday morning quarterback on everything, man. I mean, most of the time you're going to be right because you're not predicting anything. You're just describing what you're seeing. So
absolutely.
I think that's pretty easy to do. We'll see. But those that aren't in the Super Contest, shoot, you should probably be in it because majority of them aren't doing very well. I think I don't know. I have to look. I haven't looked in the last couple of weeks how the leaders are doing, but they're right up there. There's some guys that certainly are doing very well, and obviously there should be some when you're talking over 1,000 entries. But over 1.5 million is up for grabs. So I'm sure we'll be here next year. So those that are not in it, they should take a shot at it. Because you never know what's going to happen. If you get hot, you certainly can win a lot of money in this thing.
Right, absolutely, and it's very easy. Actually, we're entering week 8 here, so everybody has a number of weeks, over half the season left. All you would really have to do is go to thelvh.com and check out the Super Contest weekly card to view all the games and pick 5 and just track how you do. And you'd probably be surprised that you are doing better than probably at least half the contestants that are in it. Might spur you on to give it a shot next year.
Yeah, and as the contest grows, of course you're going to get more public average Joes in there than maybe the sharps, and there's plenty of sharps that are struggling with the NFL too. It's just been a very difficult game this year to predict whether you're a sharp or just a public bettor, a casual player. It's been tough. It's really tough.
Right. Absolutely.
If you're above 500 at this point, believe me, you're doing pretty well. But majority of the people, and even the guys that I respect a lot, that don't necessarily put their picks out in print, have been struggling as well.
Right. So now, how is that halfway through the regular season? How does this compare to prior seasons? Are you looking from your side of the counter at an average? You're doing about as good as you do on average, or you guys doing a little bit better? Obviously, the more that the sharper guys and the public struggle, the better it generally would be for the books. But are you guys still right about average, or are you guys a little bit ahead of schedule?
I'd say it's average because after the last 2 weeks, because we were really struggling on Saturdays until the last 2 Saturdays, and then the NFL has been really, really good, solid for us on the Sunday games, but we haven't been doing too well on the Thursday, Sunday, Monday night games. So the books are up. There's no doubt about it, but that was a very rough September. October has been a lot better, but if you average it all out, I would say it's very comparable to an average year.
Right. Okay. Well, let us know a little bit about the what you guys have on tap there Sundays in the theater. Yeah,
we're gonna continue our Football Central event each and every Sunday, and that is taking place every Sunday in the LVH Theater. Some of the guys come in and they see the Fan Cave, which is adjacent to the sports book. That is not Football Central. Football Central is actually in the theater, where if you go towards the casino, which is not very far away, you'll see the theater right off the casino edge, and it's 1,500 seats. We have 11 giant HD screens in there. Brand new. Pictures are great. We have every game up and on in there. We have food and drink specials, some great giveaways, and we have a betting station down there as well. So we're just asking everybody, just give it a shot one time, and you'll see what kind of viewing area this is. It's certainly the best pro football viewing area in Las Vegas.
Excellent. Well, everybody go ahead and check out. If you're coming into town at all for one of these weekends, make sure that you stop by on Sunday over at Football Central there in the theater, not in the sports book itself, and check that out over at the LVH. And Jay, once again, thanks for all the input into this week's podcast, and yes, good luck to everybody.
All right, Warren, enjoy the games.
Thanks. Okay, Jay. Thanks so much.
Okay, bud. Have a good one, huh?
Take care. All right, you
too.
too.
Bye.
Bye.